if you need me, won't you call me tonight? If you're in trouble and you need me tonight, just call. You stop being broken. Did you enjoy the ride? Haven't heard from you lately. Are you dying inside? Was it all that you wanted? Was it more than you shared? Haven't heard from you lately. Does it mean you don't care? You don't care. But when the lights go out and the city wakes and you're left with only your mistakes, when hope is lost, I can take from me. I'm your vigilante on the street.
AEW was out of Philly, and they were actually in Canada tonight, getting an early start on it because they're going to be in Toronto for All Out this weekend. Tonight they were in London, Ontario, to be exact. So ends the residency in Philadelphia, thank God. You know, I enjoyed that, but after 3 weeks, it was time to get out. So we've had about 900 people for the last 3 weeks. It was nice to see more people in the building tonight. I think they had somewhere around 3,400. So that was a welcome change tonight for a 3-hour block. They had 1 hour of Collision tacked on to the end of Dynamite, and Tony Khan called it September to Remember because this is ECW month. We have September to Remember, and then this weekend we have WrestlePalooza. What other names can we revive from the past? So actually it went longer than 3 hours. We had an overrun. So technically this was longer than a 3-hour show. And I promise you, this will not be a show that is remembered even 3 weeks from now. But as one last hard sell for the pay-per-view coming up this weekend, I thought they did a solid job. The talking segments stood out to me more than anything else. We know Kyle Fletcher is going to end up being a warm body for Hangman Page to work with this weekend. We know what the score is as far as that championship match is considered. Yeah, I made the comment on TNT the other night. It kind of reminds me of the Survivor Series in 1992, where we had a world championship match with Bret Hart defending his title against the Intercontinental Champion. He had just won the title. It was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. And I'm sure at that time, most people watching also probably figured, ain't no way this guy's winning the world title. And funny enough, I still feel that was probably the best match those two ever had. Just in terms of just a one-on-one, Iron Man. The Iron Man match, of course, you knew it was going to be 60 minutes going in, and so it was long swaths of nothing happening. I'm partial anyway to that first Survivor Series match. So that's basically the situation that we have here. Champion against champion, only one title is on the line. And I don't think there are very many people out there expecting a title change this weekend. For Kyle Fletcher, obviously, it's a huge spot for him to be in. I don't know if this match is actually going to close the show on Saturday. I don't know if this will be the main event or if they're going to have maybe Copeland Christian. We're going to main event against FTR. I don't know what the show closing match is going to be, but this is certainly being positioned as the main event. And even in defeat, if he goes in there and has a competitive 30-minute match, 25-minute match with Hangman Page, he can come out of it stronger than he was going into it. But the key is always in the follow-up and what you do with him coming out of it, or what people you have him working with coming out of it. What kind of TNT title matches do we see from Kyle Fletcher coming out of it? Kyle Fletcher has a ready-made program with Kenny Omega waiting for him when Kenny is ready to come back. So no matter what happens on Saturday, and he will lose, but no matter what happens on Saturday, he at least has that as well. That's another big name for him to work with. This has been a good year for Kyle Fletcher. It hasn't been a good year for everybody. It's been a good year for Kyle Fletcher. So for him, this is a very big spot coming up on Saturday. Tonight, they sort of built the show around him and Hangman, kind of. I mean, they opened the show with them, and then they closed with an angle that led to Fletcher standing tall, which is good because he will not be standing tall come Saturday. Jon Moxley and Darby Allin, this is a feud that has been carrying over from 2024. And they had to put it on the back burner for a while. It stalled out because Darby, wanted to go climb Mount Everest, and that took him off television for many, many months. So a match that we should have gotten a long time ago, we're finally getting a one-on-one here on this show this weekend. And we know that's one of the central stories going into All Out. One of these central matches going into All Out, especially being in Toronto. Cope and Christian. They already did the reunion. We already saw that at Forbidden Door. This is not about their first match back together in 13 or 14 years. It's their first match in Canada. It's their first match in Toronto together in 20 years. And they're going to be taking on FTR. Tonight, this was a much better segment than what we got with FTR last week. Whatever the hell that was, it was no good. What we got on this show was much better. This was more like it. This was their final bit of hype before the big tag team match coming up this weekend. Honestly, that segment that we got, that final face-off between the two teams tonight, was one of the highlights of this episode of Dynamite. And I am looking forward to that match. I'm sure it's going to be an excellent tag team match. So I'm looking forward to that. We had qualifying matches up and down the card tonight, which at least added a little bit of importance to many of the matches on the show, because they did have implications for who's moving on to the pay-per-view on Saturday. In fact, we had 3 qualifying matches for the Tag Team Championship ladder match. That field is now set. We know who Brody King and Bandito will be defending their titles against. We had a final qualifier for the triple threat match for the Unified Championship. We already knew Okada was in, Takeshita was in. It was either going to be Beast Mortos or Mascara Dorada. Basically, what that match was tonight was to decide who is taking the losing fall on Saturday. Who is eating the pin in the unified title match on Saturday? Now we know. Now we have our answer. So we had 4 qualifying matches tonight. I should point out, all throughout the night, this is the first AEW pay-per-view that is being offered live via HBO Max. This has been something that's been in the works for almost a year now. It's finally happening. All throughout the night, at various points, Excalibur on commentary was pushing HBO Max, watching the show on HBO Max for what he said was the exclusive subscriber price. And at no point did he verbally announce what the subscriber price was. But if you look real close in the graphic, in the little teeny tiny fine print, they told you how much it's going to be. Because we already know how much it's going to be. It's going to be $39.99. But it was just funny, for all the number of times that he brought it up here on the show, he never actually told you what the price was going to be. And as I said on the Sound Off last weekend, if you are someone who has HBO Max and you use it to watch Dynamite and Collision, and maybe even some other stuff as well, plus they got the library up there, for you, it's probably worth it as far as ordering it through HBO Max, because yes, for you, it's more of a discount than it would be for somebody who maybe doesn't have an HBO Max subscription. If you don't watch Dynamite on Max, and maybe you don't use Max for other sports or other programming that they have, it's not much of a discount. In fact, it's not a discount at all. So you probably would be better off sticking to wherever else you watch the AEW pay-per-views. But if you are going to make use of the Max service, then for you, it would be more of a discount. So it's just one more place for you to order the pay-per-view. If you go on the AEW website, I don't know if it's on the events page, whatever it is, they have all the different graphics, for all the different platforms the show is offered on. Those don't magically go away. So however you choose to watch the show, just remember it was bumped up. So instead of 8 p.m. Eastern, it's 3 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a very busy weekend. of wrestling this Saturday and podcasting, including a sound off on Sunday, but that's Sunday. We'll talk about tonight. Wednesday is what we're here to talk about. This is your AEW September to Remember review. It is Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for being with me here on another Wednesday night. There is Oz and Glorious. Popping up with a $5 super chat. Yes, super chats are open. Anyone who wants to drop one, please go ahead and do so. And I will be reading your messages. I sure do appreciate the support, including Sean. I see Sean is with us. Brandon Proctor, 5 gifted memberships. That's pretty badass. Thank you, Brandon. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. 400 likes is the minimum. Doesn't always work here on the Dynamite streams, but if we hit 400, we'll be the booker. Later on in the stream, channel memberships, of course, are open as well. The higher tier is the Legends tier. That's the one where you can catch the retro audio, or as I call them, the lost episodes of the Sound Off. First 14 are up right now. If you're a Legends tier member, more to come, including some old SE Scoops Live call-in shows. First one we ever did is up, but there's a bunch more. So there's going to be some cool stuff going up. So please go ahead and check that out. I do want to make mention here. I don't know if I don't believe he's with us right now, but I just want to send a note here to our good friend Sidro, who lost his mom yesterday. So my condolences, and I'm sure the condolences of everyone here in the chat. We are thinking about you, brother, and just stay strong. It's a very shitty situation. Nothing else to really say about it. It sucks. Everyone goes through it at some point, but we're thinking about you wherever you may be. So let's get into the show here tonight. We got 3 hours worth of Dynamite to get through here, so we may as well not waste any time. I should point out Excalibur, Taz, and Bryan Danielson were the announce team again this week. He was on the call. This was week 2 for Bryan. I felt this way last week. Felt the same way tonight. He's very good in the role. It was the smart move to move Shivani out of that spot and put Brandon. I'm looking at the chat, and put Bryan in there because just the way he breaks things down, and obviously the perspective that he brings, he's very good. He's very good at the analyst role. So I'm glad that he has assimilated so quickly into the announce team here. But I also need to point out, speaking of Bryan Danielson, I should throw this up here. I got hit with this earlier. You know, Max is only 20 years too late here. Like, I haven't heard this before. But yes, I was getting those baby dragon comments every time I used to walk into the Manhattan Center for one of those early Ring of Honor shows. But it was 20 years ago today. Shout out to Timeless Dexter here for the reminder on Twitter. 20 years ago today that Bryan Danielson won his first Ring of Honor World Championship. He was the champion when I started watching Ring of Honor. When I started going to those live shows, he was the champion. And I was there, in fact, the night that he dropped it. It was, God, how many days was he champion for? Probably close to 500. And when he dropped that championship at Final Battle in 2006 to Homicide, I was in the building that night. It was like a big celebration when Homicide finally won the title. That's old school right there. That is old school Ring of Honor. Tony Schiavone may not have been on commentary for the beginning of this show, although he did join later on. But he was in the ring to bring out the Hangman, the world champion, Hangman Adam Page and Kyle Fletcher, for the contract signing for their AEW World Title match coming up at All Out. Don Callis was out with Fletcher, even though the Callis family will not be allowed at ringside on Saturday at the pay-per-view. They are not allowed to get involved in this match. That is what they established last week. No Callis family interference. Callis told Hangman he remembers when he took the AEW World Title from Hangman, or rather from him with that old weakling there. He said, Kenny Omega. I'm getting Hangman and Kenny mixed up here. But if you remember, Kenny had Callis with him when he took the championship. So he reminded him of that run that they were on. There's nothing Page can do, though, to a stud athlete like Kyle Fletcher. So he talked about how Saturday the title is coming to the Callis family. Hangman said the stipulation is not to keep half the roster from interfering here in this match, as they have been doing, continuing to get involved in all of these world title matches. It's so that one day Fletcher can look back and realize that he could win this on his own. Said if Fletcher reads the contract, he'll see that if Don or any member of the Don Callis family get involved, not only will Kyle Fletcher be disqualified, but he will be stripped of his TNT championship. The TNT title is not even on the line in the match on Saturday, but that is the consequence for any member of the Callis family getting involved. Not only does he lose the match by DQ, he loses the one championship that he already has. And I like that. I actually like the addition of that. I like them putting that out there because all we had last week was the word of one heel, someone who we know is not to be trusted. So it's like, oh, yeah, no one from the Callis family will get involved. But how do you put that in writing? Like, how do you make that enforceable? How do you make that rock solid, right? This is the way to do that. So you throw that out there and say, well, if you go back on your word and somebody does get involved here, you're going to lose that TNT championship. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, now they've established that nobody from the Callis family is going to get involved here because obviously he's not being stripped of that TNT title. So now there's something tangible that they have put out there as far as these stipulations for this match. I like that. I feel like that's something they had to do. So Callis was furious about this. Fletcher, though, held him back. Said that Hangman could have put anything in that contract, even forcing him to crawl through broken glass to get a shot at the AEW World Championship, and he would have signed it. Said not having the family out there changes nothing. Fletcher says he will fulfill his destiny. At his age, he's 26 years old right now, he pointed out. And he said, I'm better than you when you were this age, when you were in the early days of AEW, first coming up and challenging for the world title for the first time. I'm better now than you were then. Said AEW doesn't need Hangman or Kenny Omega. It needs the proto-star. Saturday, Fletcher allows Page to ride off into the sunset, and with that, Fletcher officially signed the contract. So Hangman said he knows how it feels to be Kyle Fletcher right now, but the thing Fletcher doesn't understand is that it will crush him the day after All Out. While Page believes Fletcher in saying that he'll give everything he has, it won't be enough, but what Fletcher does with that feeling will define him. After All Out, and the days and years that follow, don't disappoint me. And Page signed the contract. Fletcher cut off Shivani, who was trying to make it official, and he told Hangman that he's a man of his word. No physicality here during the contract signing. No family members out there on Saturday. But tonight, he promises that Page will be unable to leave the building on his own 2 feet, and he will say Kyle Fletcher's full name. Little spoiler here, he actually did not say Kyle Fletcher's full name. Now that I think about it, he did not deliver on that promise. The first part he did, but not the second part. This was pretty standard. I mean, as far as contract signings go, I mean, I thought, yeah, the verbal stuff back and forth was fine. But pretty pedestrian stuff here. They did set up a good hook, I think, for the end of the show. You know, if you're into this, if you're into this story, you know, the threat of him doing something to Hangman basically promised you that this was not the last we were going to see of them on the show. So I think that was a smart thing for them to do. Jon Moxley was in the opening match. He came out with Marina Shafir and Daniel Garcia. Speaking of which, there he is. No more funny dance. He's serious now. He's one of the Death Riders. He joined last week. So he was out there in Moxley's corner. For his match against Roderick Strong, who had Kyle O'Reilly in his. Early in the match, there was a spot where they ended up outside, and Roddy came face-to-face with Marina Shafir. And on commentary, Taz made the comment, he said, Roddy looks infatuated with Shafir. I would hope so. I love how, like, in kayfabe, they're not married. Like some couples in the company, they'll acknowledge it, but then others, it's like, nope, doesn't exist. So in this timeline, Roddy and Marina are not married because the announcers play dumb, and I mean, they kind of, yeah, I mean, the Taz thing was kind of like inside baseball, but never acknowledged anything there. Only the fact that, oh, he was looking a little infatuated with this woman. And he was infatuated with her long enough for Moxley to blindside him and send Roddy flying over the barricade. Late in the match, both men were up to the top rope, and Strong hit an avalanche spinning slam for a near fall. Both men were up slowly. Moxley wanted a paradigm shift. Roddy tackled him to the floor. As Strong threw Moxley back inside, Garcia tripped him up, leading to a brawl with Garcia and Kyle O'Reilly. Paul Turner's attention was turned by all of this. So Strong went to hit the ropes. He got tripped up by Wheeler Yuta, although not really, because he arrived a little late. That was the intent anyway. The intent was that he was going to trip him up, and that's not really what happened here. That led to Moxley getting the Bulldog choke applied, and he got the tap out. So this was a pretty paint-by-numbers opener here between these two, and marked by the usual Death Riders interference. So now that Daniel Garcia is part of the group, he can get in on the party. As if we don't have enough with Shafir and with Wheeler Yuta, now we've got Daniel Garcia getting involved. It's exactly what you would expect a Death Riders match to be. Now we got a video package for MJF and Mark Briscoe, which is a tables and tacks match. That is the stipulation that Mark Briscoe has chosen for this match on Saturday. And at least as far as MJF and Mark Briscoe, this has been going on now for a few months. They've had matches in the past. I suspect this will be the blow-off to this feud, the last time we see them in the ring before they move on to whatever directions they're going to move on to. So to blow it off with a stipulation like this is fine. The thing is, though, like, we get so many of these types of matches any given week, not even on pay-per-view, but like on television. And they just finished a residency at the 2300 Arena. You know, we saw Tony Storm and Sky Blue using all kinds of, I don't know if tacks were in there. They had barbed wire in there. And it's like, you know, all right. It makes sense for these two. I get it. But because we get it so often, it kind of diminishes it when we get it in situations like this. At least to me, it does. But we got the announcement on Collision. That was going to be the stipulation. So then we had footage. This was from Collision. There was a camera that was positioned outside and in the back, and it caught MJF, who was not pleased about this stipulation being chosen. We see him walking and entering Tony Khan's office, which is in a trailer, because this is where they were in Philly. Only so much room back there. So Tony Khan's office was in a trailer. Now, we don't go into the trailer. We just see MJF go in. But we hear everything. It's all mic'd up inside, but we don't actually see what's going on. We don't see the meeting inside. So MJF says, "You screwed me out of cashing in my Casino Gauntlet contract. You changed the rules on me. And you owe me for that, and you owe me one here. So let me out of this match, because I'm not some deathmatch douchebag." He does not want any part of this match. Tony says no, he will not let Max out of the match because he broke the rules and cost Briscoe his chance to compete for the world title. And Tony started raising his voice. He was putting a little bass in his voice, you know, like he just hit puberty, and he's yelling at this man. Max says, "Fine, you decided to put on your big boy pants today, so it's going to be on you when I put another Briscoe in the dirt." And he storms out of Tony's office, completely oblivious to the camera that is standing there filming. And that was all we got on this show as far as MJF and Mark Briscoe. Neither man was actually on the show tonight outside of that one segment. So as far as the match this Saturday, that was the last bit of hype that we got for that match. Now this match, when this next match here was announced for this show, I was intrigued because I realized, like, it hit me. I can't remember the last time we got a Bobby Lashley singles match, like, at all, let alone, you know, on Dynamite. But they announced Bobby Lashley against Toa Liona. who's another big guy. And they're trying to give a little push to the Gates of Agony. So I was intrigued by that. I'm actually more intrigued by that than I was the trios match that they're doing on Saturday. But it was Bobby Lashley against Toa Liona of the Gates of Agony. Ricochet and Bishop Khan were out there with Toa Liona. Shelton Benjamin and MVP were out there with Bobby. If there was any doubt about whether or not the Hurt Syndicate are baby faces or heels, at least in Canada, they were total baby faces. That much we knew watching this match tonight. So we were also reminded that Lashley has never been pinned or submitted since coming to AEW. Liona was in the driver's seat. He delivered some clubbing blows. Lashley started firing up until Liona mowed him down with a big boot, and both men went to the apron. Liona dropped Lashley with a nasty Samoan drop right on the edge of the ring. Bobby was down flat on his back on the floor heading into a commercial. After the break, Toa Liona opted to pose for the crowd. Not very smart. Not very smart. That allowed Lashley to hit an electric chair drop for the reset. Both men were up slowly. We got a slugfest. Crowd was loudly behind Lashley. Every forearm he threw. Liona sold, or no sold, I should say, a lariat, but Lashley ducked another one into an overhead belly to belly. Liona, now, this is, every time I look at his name, I'm so tempted. I don't know why. Like, I wrote like Liona, right? And I keep saying Leota, like Ray, like the actor. I don't know why. Like, my brain is like confusing the two. So we'll just call him Toa Liona. Although I will say Bobby Lashley against Ray Liotta would be a very interesting match. I don't believe Ray Liotta is with us anymore, though. I could be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure he passed away, though. Toa Liona, though, hit a headbutt. Again, he posed, and that gave Lashley a chance to hit a flatliner. Lashley lined up for the spear. Toa Liona bailed outside. Lashley went outside, and he sprinted around ringside, and he hit a mega spear. He threw his entire body into this one. MVP, he popped Ricochet in the face with a right hand. Bishop Khan got blasted by a thrust kick by Shelton Benjamin. The distraction allowed Toa Liona to pounce Lashley across the ring for a very close near fall. Lashley floated over a power slam attempt into the Hurt Lock. Toa Liona kicked out of the corner for a pin attempt, where they float over into the pin. Lashley, though, rolled over with the submission still applied, and it wasn't much longer. Toa Liona has no hope. He has no option but to pass out eventually. He went 99, and that was the end of the match. After it was over, Ricochet and the Good Bishop, they hit the ring to attack. MVP, though, broke his cane over Ricochet's back as the Hurt Syndicate stood tall. Like I said, we rarely ever get to see Lashley in singles action. He is one of the bigger stars they have, on that roster. Ever since, day one when he showed up, honestly, you look at the reactions that he gets when he comes out, he gets a superstar reaction. The whole Hurt Syndicate does. Shelton does too. But Lashley is more than most in this company. And it's a very similar thing to when he was in WWE in that last run, or even when they were trying seemingly to turn him heel. Remember when they put him with the Street Profits, and it looked like they were going to give him maybe a heel run? Nobody wanted to boo them, especially Lashley. He was so over, nobody wanted to boo him because he would just come out there and he was just projecting this cool image, right? Nobody wanted to boo this man. And it's been the same thing in AEW. Even when the Hurt Syndicate was being positioned in the heel role, people didn't really want to boo Bobby Lashley. I don't think you're ever going to get them to. I think at this point he's pretty much a babyface from this point forward. But him being in this match here, he gave Toa Liona a lot. This was not a squash. This was a very competitive match. I would even dare say Toa Liona got the slight majority of it. I enjoyed this. And with Lashley going over, I feel even more strongly than I did this weekend when I said that I had Ricochet and Gates of Agony winning at All Out. I still feel that way. And I feel like MVP is going to be the one to take the losing fall. It would mean more if Lashley got beat, and I do wonder them bringing up the fact that Lashley has yet to be pinned or made to submit, because they didn't mention that on commentary. Was that pointed out for a reason? I think that saving that, when that moment happens, saving it for a singles match and really trying to put somebody over would mean more. But obviously, pinning Bobby Lashley or Shelton Benjamin is going to mean more than pinning MVP. I think they're going to split the baby, where they will give Ricochet and the Gates of Agony the win, but they'll have them go over the weakest guy in the match on their side. Because we don't see MVP wrestle. This is his first match, right? I mean, if he wrestled in AEW before, I can't remember. It's been a long time. He's the weak link on that team. So in their mind, it might be, okay, these guys are going to go over, but they'll go over on MVP. We'll protect the other two members of the syndicate. But there was nothing in this match that would lead me to believe that the outcome on Saturday is going to be any different. Now, Tony Schiavone was in the ring after this to introduce Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, followed by FTR with Stokely Hathaway. This was the final face-to-face between these two teams before All Out. Quizzical One says, supposedly, there are more members coming for the Hurt Syndicate per Fightful. Huh. Well, we know that Cedric Alexander is signed with TNA, so it wouldn't be him. And Ricochet has his own crew. So I'm trying to think of who else would even fit in that group. Hobbs would be a pretty badass addition, but he's already with the Ops. I don't know who would get that spot. Not sure. But anyway, FTR was let out by about a dozen security geeks who I'm sure by the time this segment is over will absolutely positively not get their asses kicked. Schiavone says that there will be heavy fines if there is any physicality between these two teams. Stokely takes the mic, and he wants to make sure that these guys understand. If they touch Dax or Cash, that's $100,000 out of their pocket. If they touch Stokely, that's $500,000. That's how much money the Young Bucks won last week on the show. They won $500,000 in fake money. And he said he'll make sure the match is canceled and that their families, even their 6th grade teacher, will, in fact, not be able to see them compete in their hometown this Saturday. Cash Wheeler starts things off here on the mic. He says, 16 years ago, Adam, 2009, I met you for the first time. He was working at a gym. 16 years ago, you were the biggest star in the business, and he was a nothing, just trying to get somewhere. You walked into the gym that I was working at, and we didn't just become friends. You became my mentor. He said that Adam told him that he can get him opportunities. It's safe to say that 10 years later, they have become living legends. They helped Copeland get his career back on track. So you come to AEW and you try to make it the Cope show. You make it all about you all the time. 6 years ago, we brought your career back. This Saturday, we take it from you. Now it's Dax's turn. He says that there was a time where Cope and Christian were the best tag team in the world. But to be fair, there was only... They had 2 mediocre teams, he said, to help carry them. For 11 years, FTR have carried tag team wrestling on their backs. Said that they are the best tag team alive. And then they name-dropped all the different teams that they work with and they beat. They name-dropped Kaz and Enzo, American Alpha, Ciampa and Gargano, Bullet Club, the Young Bucks, the Briscoes. And Dax says, we've beaten them all. This is a dream match for Cope and Christian. Maybe in another life it would have been, but that's not the hand that life has dealt them. Cope grabs the mic away from him. And it was funny because Copeland the entire time, if you go back and watch this, and I know nobody will, but if you were to, Copeland had his eyes fixed on Cash Wheeler. He stared at him like a hole in him the entire time. He would not take his eyes off this man. Finally, he had heard enough. Snatched the microphone away. He tells him to shut the hell up. And he says, and Stoke, you get no hose. He tells Dax to keep Beth's name because Dax, in what he was saying, had mentioned Beth Phoenix. Said, keep Beth's name out of your mouth or she'll slap the lips off your stupid head. Now, he may have said that to Stokely. Maybe it was Stokely. I forgot which one. He said he came to AEW to work with FTR, but they insist that they were held down by Copeland. It's the fans. They don't want them in the spotlight. You talk about being the best team in the world. Congratulations. He and Christian have been there for 35 years. He said they reinvented tag team wrestling and they made a match so popular that they named a pay-per-view after it. You're in the big time. You're in the big time now, he says. And Cope and Cage will beat you in front of our hometown fans. Christian then stops him. It's not Cope and Christian. Christian says it's Cage and Copeland. Got to get it right. Christian says $100,000 is a lot of money. I mean, hell, $500,000 is a lot of money. With that kind of money, Stokely, you can get yourself a lot of hoes. $100,000 is nothing to him. $500,000 is nothing to him because he's rich. And with that, Cage nailed Dax and a brawl broke out. So much for no physicality here in this segment. And sure enough, here come the security geeks to intervene, and they proved to be useless as usual. They got destroyed by Cope and Christian while FTR just watched. Harwood came up badly bleeding from the nose. Like, his nose was leaking like a faucet. So he had blood down his nose, his mouth, it's dripping down. I didn't see how it happened. He was brawling with Christian, so something happened with Christian. Christian maybe hit him in the face with a microphone. Again, I'm not exactly sure where it happened, but why is he always bleeding after these segments? And it's never Cash. It's always Dax. Like, is he a hemophiliac? Like, what is wrong with this guy? Why is he always bleeding after these things? I don't get it. I feel like he's always coming up with blood, like some kind of wound on his head or something. But this was more like it. I'll tell you what, this was more like it. That segment last week with FTR, again, very bizarre. Did absolutely nothing to get, certainly me or anyone I would suspect, more excited or interested in seeing this match. I don't really know what the purpose was. It was very self-indulgent, like, we need to pretend we're the Dudley Boys in the ECW arena, so we'll go pick a fight and get up in people's faces and we'll beat up a cameraman and, ooh, you're tough guys. Like, it didn't accomplish anything. This is what they needed to do. This is all they needed to do. One last face-to-face in the ring before the fisticuffs start flying in Toronto on Saturday. That's it. Dax said his piece, Cash said his piece, Copeland said his. Christian didn't have too much to say. He didn't have to. And the crowd was into it. The crowd was going to be into it anyway because they were in Canada. It's Edge and Christian in Canada. Of course they're going to be into it. So this was one of the highlights of this go-home show tonight. This was quite the turnaround from what we saw in Philadelphia last week, and a good fiery exchange between two teams who come out there and stake their claim to being the greatest of all time, neither of which are the greatest of all time, but that's the story. I'm the greatest of all time. No, we're the greatest of all time. Okay, we're going to find out who the quote-unquote greatest of all time is on Saturday. No titles on the line, no stipulations, no tables, no thumbtacks. Maybe they'll be introduced into the match anyway. This should be an excellent professional wrestling match. This, I don't want to say that it is going to end up being on par with that first match or the first series of matches that they had with the Bucks or the matches they had with the Briscoes, because those are classic matches. It could be, though. This is a Copeland and Christian who are a lot older. They're not, in ring the same performers they would have been 10, 15 years ago, but they can still go, especially with the right opponents. And they're all friends. And so they're going to want to go out there and steal the show. And they're going to be in Canada. So that's one of the matches I'm actually really looking forward to on the show this weekend. We got footage from earlier in the day of Renee talking backstage. I don't even know what she was talking about, some nonsense, when I was more focused on what was going on in the background, because you could see the Young Bucks off in the distance having a conversation with one of the production people. So she notices the Bucks. She approaches them. Nick Jackson says that we're back, baby, after winning $500,000 last week. From rags to riches, he said. And Nick said that they paid off this production guy so we can get a proper entrance tonight. And he also said, Renee, we've been very rude to you. So he pulls out a wad of bills, $10,000 he claims. And he hands her $10,000 in cash. Told her that it was real American money, which drew boos from the fans here in Canada. And Renee was giddy because she had money. I thought that Matt Jackson was going to come back into the shot, take the money away from her. But no, they gave her the cash. A good night. So the Bucks made their entrance, and they had a proper entrance this time with their theme music and their entrance video. They got pyro, some flames shot up. No more broke-ass Bucks, Makes me a sad panda. Although they are doing this story where Nick Jackson is spending the money. He's gambling the money. They showed some footage of them outside of a casino. Matt Jackson trying to stop him. He doesn't want to be spending this money. Nick Jackson has other ideas. And also they brought their sack of money out to the ring with them to keep in the corner, which just seems like a very bad idea. I mean, it's not Damien the Snake. You put a bag with money there, eventually it's going to disappear. But it was the Young Bucks in action next against what is left of the Bang Bang Gang. Unfortunately, they have been snake bitten. There is no Jay White. There is no Colton Gunn at the moment. So the Bang Bang Gang is reduced to Juice Robinson, who has his beard back. He grew it back in. And Austin Gunn. This was a qualifier for the tag team title 4-way ladder match that is coming up this weekend. Nick Jackson got some cash, and he tried to give it to referee Rick Knox, who declined by smacking his hand, which sent the money flying. The Bucks went for a BTE trigger on Robinson late in the match, but he ducked it, so their knees slammed together. Austin Gunn caught Nick diving off the top rope, put him down with a flatliner. Juice got a Hurricane Rana off the ropes, but Matt rolled him over into a pin. Austin reversed the pin for a 2 count, and then Nick did the same for another 2 count. Finally, the Bucks hit the TK driver on Juice and pinned him to advance to All Out. That's the crux of it there. Solid stuff. No great drama here. I mean, you had to know the Bucks were... I have the Bucks winning the ladder match on Saturday, but at the very least, you had to know they were going to be on the pay-per-view. You're not going to have All Out without the Young Bucks. So, no surprise there as far as the winner, and that is the correct choice. So, from one qualifying match, we got another one. This one here was for
Attention
to the sicko in row 4. Look, I know you're excited to be at Dynamite tonight. It's your first show, but you can't be pulling that thing out. Okay, you got to put that away.
Fuck Triple H.
And don't think I didn't see that sign that you brought that said, I came to see AEW. That's sick. Thank you. Oh, the sickos are out again. Terrible dried chicken without flavor. With the $40 sicko drop. Hey, dried chicken, I hope you're having a good night. Get to your, I know he dropped some messages earlier, so we're going to get to all of them here in just a little bit. But you would think that the sickos would know at this point. You got to keep that thing away. You don't take that thing out during the show. We got kids. We got kids sitting in the crowd. What's wrong with you? Thank you, dried chicken. This match here was a qualifying match for the Unified Championship 3-way that we are getting it All Out. We have, it is really in many ways multi-person madness, because think about this, right? This weekend, we have a 4-way ladder match for the tag team titles. We have a 3-way for the Unified Championship, and we have another 4-way for the Women's World Championship. And they also have announced this match, and I thought it was one of their all-star matches. It basically is. But they're calling it a Tornado Tailgate Brawl. on the pre-show. And this match is going to have Willow Nightingale, Mina Shirakawa, Queen Aminata, and Harley Cameron. And they're going to be taking on Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford, Julia Hart, and Sky Blue. And that's not even everything. But those are some of the multi-person matches that you could expect this weekend at All Out. There's a lot of them. So anyway, we know Kazuchika Okada is the defending champion. He'll be in the three-way. Konosuke Takeshita has already qualified. He's in the three-way. This match was to determine who gets to lose to Okada. In the unified title match at All Out this weekend, it was the Beast Mortos taking on Mascara Dorada. That was the match here. We got the usual lucha spot fest, a lot of crazy moves, a lot of crazy dives, fast-paced action, tough to keep up with. Blink and you'll miss it. Dorada missed the 450. He ran into the clutches of Mortos, who delivered a violent backbreaker. Mortos wanted to pop up Samoan drop, but Dorada countered into a destroyer. Dorada came back with a crucifix bomb. Now, there was a spot in here that got messed up where Dorada tried a double springboard into basically a spinning destroyer. He was going to springboard into a destroyer. On the initial leap up to the ropes, he didn't quite make it. He fell back down. No big deal. He tried it again. He jumped up. When he went for the destroyer, he got none of it. I mean, a small part of it, but it was very bad. It was very bad. He was going for a destroyer and didn't quite get it. Both men fought up to the top rope. Dorada hit a spinning Hurricane Rana. That did connect. Mortos kicked out at 1. At 1. There was a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker from Dorada that led to a shooting star press, and he got the win. That surprised me. I don't know why, because Mortos rarely, if ever, wins anything. He's a perennial loser. I mean, he's popular, but he's a perennial loser on these shows. So maybe I shouldn't be so surprised. I thought for sure, though, he was going to fill that third spot. So Dorada got the win instead, but it doesn't matter. Whoever wins this match is losing on Saturday, so it doesn't matter. Whether it's Dorada, whether it's Mortos, the only thing is Mortos now, he won't have a pay-per-view match, but it would have been a surefire loss. So Mascara Dorada gets that spot instead. Now, when the match was over, we heard the coin drop. Okada comes out. Don Callis is with him because Okada is carrying the unified title. Don Callis has the other two titles because we still have the international title and we have the, what was the other one? Continental. There's so many fucking titles, my God. So he had the Continental title and the international title over his shoulders. And Okada had the unified title. Have I got that right? Have we gotten our titles straight? I think we have. Wait until I get to Mercedes. You talk about titles. So they come out to the ring. And on commentary, Bryan Danielson says he's surprised. Very interesting how Don Callis is out here with the champion, even though he has another member of his family in Konosuke Takeshita, who's also in that match on Saturday. And almost on cue, they hit the music, and out, actually power walks out, is Konosuke Takeshita. He got into a face-off with Okada. They're nose to nose. Callis steps in between them to try to cool tempers. Dorada, meanwhile, in the ring, is now springboarding off the top rope. Huge crossbody through the air, and he takes Okada down with the crossbody. He pops right back up, and he goes face-to-face with Takeshita. And that was our last bit of hype there for the unified title three-way on Saturday. Again, this is sort of the story of the show. I mean, I don't doubt the quality, the in-ring quality of most of these matches. And this should also be very good, but we can pretty much guess where this is going. And it's the right move to make. I mean, I understand why they turned it into a three-way. So that third person can take the loss. It protects Takeshita from having to take a loss. And it allows them to build further to the eventual singles match between Okada and Takeshita, where Takeshita, when this is all said and done, should be the man who takes that Continental Championship from Okada. And, you know, it's the fall. We are getting very close to Continental season where they have the Continental Classic. So the question is, as close as we are to that tournament, Are we looking at a situation where Okada is the champion, right? Takeshita is in the tournament, and we end up with a final of Okada and Takeshita. So when we get that match, and maybe that's World's End, it's in the finals of the Continental Classic. And Okada beats him, wins the tournament, wins the championship. That feels like where we're headed here. And I'm okay with that. I actually think that's the right direction. Now, speaking of titles and champions, we have another champion here. Timeless Toni Storm. 7 months. The AEW Women's World Champion. She was out on stage next with the spotlight on her for a promo. The whore you all adore. The slut you can't rebut. The trollop you can't wallop. The skank you want to spank. This tramp is still the champ. But for how much longer? She does not know. 7 months ago, she won her baby back. And since then, she's lived every day as if it's her last. She's slain beasts and belt collectors and forever champions, loving every single disgusting, sweaty, sexually questionable second of it because AEW is where the best wrestle. I don't know what that has to do with where the best wrestle, but that's where the best wrestle. If you're not willing to put your life on the line every time you step in the ring, darling, you ain't shit. Now she risks it all for 3 women deserving of this title, so if this is the end of her reign, and when she even teased the possibility that this could be the end of her reign, you heard the boos. And people still love Timeless Toni. I mean, some people feel like the gimmick has run its course. She has consistently found ways to keep it somewhat fresh. Because what she's doing is not radically different than what she was doing 6 months ago. But she's still very entertaining when she's out there. Some people still love the gimmick as much now as they did a year ago. And some people are over it. But she's one of the biggest stars they have in the entire company. Right? Of that, there can be no doubt. You just look at the reactions she gets when they hit her music and she comes out. Eventually, the Timeless stuff will completely run its course, and she's going to have to evolve this into something else. But she's still knocking it out of the park, in these segments when we see her on TV. I mean, this woman has a way with words. She certainly has a way with words. But she says, if this is the end of her reign, it's been the honor of her life. If they really want to take her title, she suggests you burn her body to the ground and pack her ashes into a little pipe before taking a big puff, as no one can get you as high as Toni Storm. Jamie Hayter then walked into the spotlight. She just appeared. Now she says she's not a fan of the spotlight. Toni can keep that, but it won't look as good without that title. It's been a long time since it's been Hayter and Storm, who has seemed to forget some things. Hayter doesn't forget. She reminds Toni that she invited Hayter, which she did. She was the one who invited Jamie into this match. And Hayter hits hard. So Chris Statlander now shows up. She walks into the spotlight. She mentions that it's been 4 years since she has competed for the AEW Women's World Championship. She said that neither woman have the ovaries to stop Stat. The ovaries. Storm told them both to trim their bushes, bitches. How can you hate this woman? Are there people out there that don't like this woman? How is that possible? What other woman is going to tell her opponents before she on the go home show here, the last hard sell before the pay-per-view, tell them to trim their bushes? I think that's good advice that everybody should follow. What do I know? So they're all going out, and it's going to be, and before she could hit that go home line, Thekla's music interrupts. And Thekla is out for the next match, which was Thekla one-on-one with Queen Aminata. This was a no-holds-barred match. Tony Schiavone at this point replaced Taz on commentary, since we are now entering the collision portion of tonight's show. Aminata was out with a trash can, threw it into the ring, but she was brawling at ringside with Thekla to start the match. Aminata threw multiple chairs into the ring as Thekla recovered, sending her over the barricade and cracking her head with a trash can lid. After a commercial, Aminata decked Thekla with a trash can before hitting a draping twist of fate onto the can. Thekla got a chair, and she got a chair shot in across the back of Aminata, leading to both women slugging it out from their knees. As Aminata slowly climbed up to the top, Thekla rose from the dead, fired a trash can lid shot. She fought with Aminata on the ropes, got shoved into a tree of woe, only to rise with another lid shot. The spider suplex connects as Thekla hits her spider pose. She charged in for a spear, but she ran into a chair shot to the face. Aminata hit a twisting fisherman's buster for another near fall. Aminata missed a leg drop from the second rope, and Thekla followed with a curb stomp onto a chair for the win. Although the finish came off a little awkward there because it looked like at that last moment, Aminata either tried to kick out or maybe did kind of sort of kick out. And there was like a moment or two there before the music hit where there was this awkwardness, like, was that supposed to happen? Which I think it was. But it just came off a little weird. After the match was over, Thekla took the mic. How often does this woman get to speak on Dynamite? Never. This is the first time. I don't think we've heard her voice on Dynamite, right? I'm not talking Collision. I'm talking Dynamite. Although, actually, now that I think about it, technically, this was not Dynamite. This technically was Collision. So I guess we can't say that. But she didn't say much, but she got on the microphone as she screamed, told Toni Storm to look no further. Her end is right here. Toni hit the ring, mounted Thekla with punches until Jamie Hayter ran out, got up on the apron. Chris Statlander showed up, and she swept out Jamie's legs. The two of them brawled at ringside until Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shafir showed up, with Statlander screaming at Yuta that she doesn't need his help. Meanwhile, in the ring, the Triangle of Madness, they were all in the ring. Sky Blue, Julia Hart, they attacked. Toni fought them off, grabbed a chair, and the heels all bailed. Hayter reappeared behind Storm. She was about to take a free shot. She could have, but she held up. Storm got in Hayter's face, and the two of them had to be separated by referees. You know, last week, I mentioned this before, we had Toni Storm and Sky Blue in a hardcore brawl because it was Philadelphia, right, in the spirit of ECW. So they had a garbage match last week with all the weapons and plunder and barbed wire and all that shit. Here, because there's going to be people who look at this match and say the same thing. Why are we having two women in a hardcore match when this doesn't warrant a hardcore match? To be fair, these two women have been feuding now for a few months. These two women have established a deep hatred for one another. If you do watch any of their stuff from Collision, and frankly, even if you don't, just go back to Forbidden Door, right? They were involved in a match on the pre-show. 2 hours went by. And remember they cut to the back and they were still brawling, and then they ended up fighting out into the aisleway, back out into the arena, as if they had been fighting and never stopped fighting for 2 hours. That's how much these two women hate each other. You can't say that this isn't a feud that wouldn't warrant a no-holds-barred match. So the stipulation actually fit because these two women, I mean, you may not be paying attention to what they're doing, but even I can sit here and tell you that, you know what, that didn't bother me. Like last week didn't need to be a hardcore match. This makes sense if you consider the fact that they've been feuding now for a while. And as far as the match, as far as these hardcore type brawls go, I thought this was a good one. But again, we get them so often. It's like I'm numb to them. Like I'm numb to them. They don't register with me in the way that they used to because we get to see them so often. And it's hard to do something in these types of matches that's never been done before. We've seen it all. Everything there is to see, we've seen it. So unless you can top that and if you're going to do the same thing but do it better than anybody else, you're not going to remember it. You know, it's not going to have that impact that you're looking for. So it was fine. But is it a match that people are going to remember 2 weeks from now? No. No, they're not. We go in the back. Alicia Atut Or would it now be Alicia Atut Friedman? I don't know. I don't know what she's going by. But she was interviewing Dante Martin, Darius Martin, Scorpio Sky, and Christopher Daniels outside the venue. Atut asked the Martin brothers about their upcoming tag team match. They were in the main event tonight. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but ever since we joined Skyflight, we've been on a bit of a roll, said Darius. And I'm listening to this thinking, actually, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not aware. Look, I guess they're the Collision Cowboys, and maybe they've been building up momentum on that show. But no, I wasn't fully aware of this role that they've been on. So thank you for bringing me up to speed. Hangman Page shows up, the world champion, and he warns Top Flight that while the Callis family will not be interfering in his world title match at All Out, they should not expect that same courtesy to be extended during their match tonight. So be careful. That family multiplies. And Christopher Daniels told them that Skyflight, they've got each other's backs. Yeah. They're going to be okay. You knew doom was coming. We got another qualifier for the tag team title ladder match at All Out, this time with Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight taking on Kip Sabian and Luchasaurus for Killswitch. Mother Wayne was out there as well. She grabbed Mike Bailey's foot while he was running the ropes. He still hit Killswitch with multiple kicks. Bailey ran toward the other side of the ring where Sabian low-bridged him. That sent Bailey out to the floor. Late in the match, Killswitch cut off a run of offense by the babyfaces by headbutting Speedball and then followed up with a chokeslam. Sabian at this point demands to be tagged in. And he slaps Killswitch, which the referee counted as a tag. Bailey rolled up Sabian for a 2 count. Sabian returned the favor and used the ropes for leverage. Killswitch, though, is on the outside on the floor. He sees this. He rushes over and he pushes his own partner's feet off the ropes. We're not going to win the match that way. And Sabian obviously is very upset about this. He's beside himself. Killswitch calls for a tag. Sabian dove for the tag, but Killswitch drops down off the apron. And Kevin Knight hit a clothesline on Sabian from the top rope. Then Bailey followed up with a big kick. And that led to the 3 count and the win for JetSpeed. Dried Chicken says, Kevin Knight was flirting with Mother Wayne. I mean, can you blame the guy? What, are you going to hold it against him? JetSpeed advances to All Out. No surprise there. If I was surprised by anything, I thought that they would drag things out a little bit longer with Sabian and Killswitch and not... I mean, they basically had Killswitch turn against him here. Cost him the match. Cost his own team the match. Now, we'll see. It doesn't mean that that's an official break. Doesn't mean it's a clean break for him from that group. Nick Wayne should be back very soon. I know he broke his foot, but he wasn't expected to be out for that long. It wasn't that bad of a break. So we could very well see Nick Wayne back on TV in a matter of a few weeks. Maybe they keep things together a little bit longer, wait for him to come back. I don't know. We all know this is the direction this is headed anyway. You know, they're gonna split up, and Luchasaurus will go back to being Luchasaurus. And then the only question at that point is, okay, if he goes back to being Luchasaurus, what do you do with him? It's not like Tony Khan is known for booking the big guys in a wonderfully great way. Like, what do they have for him? Do you put him back in the tag team? Where's Jack Perry? You want to reunite the two of them? It's not like they're doing anything with Jack Perry. He's leaving little hints on like the BTE episodes on YouTube. I have no idea if that's building to something. So I don't know, like, when this plays itself out, I don't know what the ultimate direction is going to be for Luchasaurus. But right now they have the fans clamoring for him to split away from this guy. You know, and he's going to come out of it as a big baby. I mean, he's already a big baby face. They're chanting his name every time he's out there. They want him to go back to being the dinosaur. Big Bill, speaking of big guys, here's a big guy who's going to lose this weekend. Big Bill. He was in the back with Brian Keith. And Big Bill said, you know, this match coming up with Eddie Kingston, he knows it's been announced. He sees it in the graphic. but he'll believe it when he see it, or he'll believe it when he sees it, rather. Because Kingston has been sitting at home for the last 16 months. Nobody's seen him. They're saving Eddie Kingston's first appearance back for the pay-per-view. I don't think it's going to sell a single pay-per-view. There isn't one person out there who was not already going to buy this show, who hears Eddie Kingston is coming back. I wasn't going to order All Out, but now I have to, right? I'm not knocking. I'm a big fan of Eddie Kingston. I'm just saying that in and of itself is not going to sell a single pay-per-view. But what Tony Khan is trying to do here, he's trying to just throw another small attraction on the show. Eddie has not been seen in almost a year and a half. It's probably coming up on about a year and a half. And so if you want to see the return of Eddie Kingston, we're not just going to give it away on Dynamite or Collision. You got to tune into All Out. His first match back, his first appearance back in all these months, right? And it's smart. It's just another attraction to throw on the card. And it's good that we're finally getting Eddie back. He is somebody, especially when it comes to just his work on the mic and his ability to sell you on a match or sell you on a feud. He's one of the best they have. And I would expect at some point, maybe not right away, but I would suspect at some point that they will loop him into this Death Rider stuff, where maybe he's, trying to, again, get Moxley to pull himself away from Claudio. They could revisit that story, Claudio being somebody he doesn't like and doesn't trust. That would be a way to kind of get him back involved in that main event mix. There's different things you could do with Eddie Kingston, but he's been gone long enough. It'll be good to get him back. And they have a bunch of other people who are out of action right now. Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland. So he's coming back at just the right time. Now, earlier today, Bryan Danielson he slat down with Darby Allin. He slat down with Darby for a sit-down interview. Bryan wants to know, why did you climb Mount Everest? I think a lot of people were asking that question. Why did you climb Mount Everest? Darby said he felt like he was living his life through other people. He wanted to make sure that he did this for himself. He knows there are snakes in this business and you have to look out for yourself. At the end of the day, you're only as good as your words, and he gave people his word that he would climb Mount Everest and he would plant that AEW flag. And then he considered Bryan family, right? He remembers back when he was 5 years old. He didn't know his uncle was drunk, but he gave him his word. Talking about the car accident that cost his uncle his life. He said, take Sting, for instance. He would never turn his back on Sting. He said, Bryan wants to know if he's ready for this coffin match on Saturday. And Darby says, I don't know, but he wants Bryan to give him his word about this one thing. I want your word that you will not interfere in this match. He goes, I blame myself for what happened to you at Wrestle Dream last year. Bryan tells him, don't say that. But Darby says, Bryan, your career is over. Your career is over. And he feels at least partially responsible for that. And they show Bryan Danielson, and he doesn't say anything, but just the look on his face. He's got like this crestfallen look on his face. Like the realization washes over him that his career is finally over. So promise me you won't get involved. Bryan says, Darby, you have my word, but I have something I want to ask you. And he leans in. We can't hear what he's saying, but he whispers something in Darby's ear. And Darby pulls back and he says, you have my word. And they shake hands. And when they come back live, they show the announcers at ringside, and Excalibur tries to get it out of him. Like, what did you say to him? And Bryan's like, that's between me and Darby. So what does that mean? A little bit of intrigue now heading into the coffin match on Saturday. But this was good. This was good. It was brief, but I enjoyed this segment. We had Riho. I did not really enjoy this segment. We had Riho and Robin Renegade. Mercedes Moné joined at ringside for this match. She had her TBS title with her. That's the title she's defending against Riho on Saturday. But already at ringside, right next to the announce desk, on the timekeeper's table, all 8 of her other belts were all sitting there. I was just talking about championships. So go ahead and try to figure out which title is which. Like, you can pick out the Owen Hart title. That one is easy to identify. But good luck identifying all the other titles that were laid out there. So Monet, on commentary, kept mocking Riho for being the little one. No lies detected there. She is, in fact, the little one. If she's 98 pounds, I'd be shocked. If she's 98 pounds, I would be shocked. She is indeed the little one. Head scissors sent Renegade into the ropes. Riho met her with a charging drop kick. And she's staring down at Mercedes outside. As she goes to the top, she hits a diving crossbody on Robin Renegade. During the commercial, Renegade gained control, trapped Riho in a tree of woe, delivered a knee drop. Riho battled back. She headed up top for a double stomp, rolled through after Renegade moved. There was a snapdragon by Riho, who followed with a crucifix bomb for the win. After the match was over, Riho is in the ring. She is staring down Mercedes, who is still outside the ring. And Mercedes is, standing up now, and she's making like maybe she's going to get in the ring. Robin Renegade grabs a hold of Riho. She kind of picks her ankle, and that gives Mercedes a chance to get into the ring, hit a backstabber. She ends up standing tall over Riho here at the end of this segment. This was barely above the level of a squash. That's the best I could say about this match. It was one of these momentum wins for Riho. She's the challenger, gets a W under her belt going into the pay-per-view on Saturday. I thought they might do more with, Monet and Robin, if not both Renegade twins. And I pointed this out that a few years ago in an interview, Mercedes said she would love to have a faction one day with the Renegade twins. So when I saw that Robin Renegade was the hand-picked opponent here from Tony Khan to wrestle Riho on this show, I said, oh, maybe this is the start of something. And she gave her the assist at the end. She held Riho's ankles so Mercedes can get in the ring and attack her. But after that, she just vanished. So it doesn't look like they're doing anything in that department. But I know Mercedes had made that comment about the Renegade twins some time ago. Not much else to say about this, though. Now, the Death Riders, they're here with us after the break in a pre-tape segment. Claudio says that their issues with the ops have not been resolved yet. Oh, my God. Will they ever be? They've been feuding for months. Will their issues ever be resolved? This goes back to at least May. And probably longer than that. So their issues are unresolved. Wheeler Yuta says something, but nobody gives a shit. Daniel Garcia says that on Saturday, come and get this business. So now they pitch it over to the ops. Samoa Joe says, well, look at this. Daniel Garcia wants to be someone. Well, we've heard you. Loud and clear, the challenge has been accepted. So then they announced after that on the pre-show, this Saturday, it will be Wheeler Yuta, or not Wheeler Yuta. I forbid it. It's going to be Daniel Garcia, one-on-one with Katsuyori Shibata. It is Garcia Shibata 3. I don't recall seeing Garcia Shibata 2. Is this like a movie where I need to go back and watch 1 and 2 before I watch 3? Or can I just go into 3? Do I need to know all the minute details of the first 2 before I watch part 3? Am I going to watch part 3? Probably not. It's going to be a long day of wrestling on Saturday. My ass is starting at 3 p.m. You can do whatever you want at 2 p.m. I'm watching at 3 p.m. 3 to 7, and then from 7 to 11, that's a lot of wrestling. I'm good. And then I get to go live. The main event of this 3-hour-plus episode was the final qualifier for the tag team ladder match on Saturday. Top Flight taking on Josh Alexander and Hechicero. Don Callis came out. He did the intros for both of his men, including the Yo Soy Hechicero intro that he does. We have not seen Top Flight on Dynamite since May. And I was like, oh, this is their first match on Dynamite in all these months. And then I realized, again, this is not Dynamite. This is Collision. So they still technically have not been on Dynamite since May. Darius Martin avoided these constant submission attempts by Hechicero at the beginning, although the Callis crew had control heading into a commercial break. Late in the match, Darius went for a suicide dive. Alexander, though, caught him with an elbow. The announcers played up Darius being knocked out on the move. Really sold it big. Dante went up top. Alexander, though, shoved him down while Hechicero distracted the referee. Hechicero used the head scissors to spike Dante's head down into the mat, and he pinned him. So the field is now set. It will be Brodito defending the tag team titles this weekend against the Young Bucks, against the Don Callis family, and against JetSpeed. That is your ladder match. I'm going to throw out there that the Young Bucks will regain the AEW tag team titles. That is my prediction. Was there pyro for September to remember? I don't remember at the beginning if there was pyro. I think there was. I know there was some pyro when the Young Bucks came out. Was there pyro at the beginning of the show? After the match, we weren't done yet. Lance Archer and Rocky Romero hit the ring. They attacked Christopher Daniels. Scorpio Sky and JetSpeed, though, ran out to make the save. The Young Bucks then joined in the brawl, as did Brody King and Bandito. And the tag champs were standing tall but Bandito, he got an assist from Brody King, who helped him onto the top rope. He had his back turned, and he hit a massive springboard moonsault out onto the pile on the floor. Brodito brawled to the back with the Bucks and JetSpeed and Hechicero, as Lance Archer laid out Daniels with a big boot before he and Rocky Romero threw him back into the ring. So Archer was about to deliver a chokeslam until Hangman Page. He stormed down to the ring. Rocky Romero got sent flying outside. Lance Archer got clotheslined out to the floor. Hangman turned around and he caught Kyle Fletcher at that exact moment. He had just slid into the ring and Fletcher just stopped in his tracks and they looked up at each other. They locked eyes. So Romero picked the ankle, and that gave Fletcher an opportunity to attack Page and take him down. At this point on commentary, Tony Schiavone said the entire Don Callis family is attacking Hangman Page, even though only 3 of them were out there. The math isn't mathing here. Tony Schiavone is, math was not his star subject in school. This is not the entire Don Callis family. This is actually a very small portion of the Don Callis family. So Romeo Romero over here and Lance Archer, they set up a table at ringside. Fletcher brought Hangman out onto the apron, and he was setting up for a brain buster. The same thing he did to Kenny Omega that put Kenny Omega on the shelf, right? So he's teasing this move. Page, though, floats over, and he clotheslines Fletcher back into the ring. Romero gets back up, Archer gets back up, and he kicks them away. He vaults into the ring for a buckshot lariat, but as he vaults into the ring, he flips right into a belt shot, right to the face by Kyle Fletcher. Fletcher quickly brings Page back out to the apron, and he hits a brain buster off the apron through the table. Table breaks, just the same way he did to Kenny Omega only a few weeks ago, which put Omega out of action. And the announcers, you would think, would be so concerned about what this means now for our championship match on Saturday, our potential main event at All Out. Didn't mention anything. Took out Kenny Omega with this move a few weeks ago. We have not seen Kenny Omega since, right? It's been weeks. Does the same thing here to Hangman Page. And we have a championship match, as I check my notes, in 3 days. The announcers didn't seem overly concerned about any of this. So Fletcher held up the AEW World title. He held up the TNT title. Excalibur questioned if Fletcher will be the first man to ever hold both titles simultaneously. How about questioning whether or not we're going to have a match on Saturday? How about that? And that is how September to Remember went off the air. A very long show that did not need to be this long, but for whatever reason, college football, whatever it was, I mean, because they have the pre-show. They could have just technically did Collision as like the pre-show on Saturday, but they've got to have their special name for it. So I guess they just felt the need to do the hour tonight because All Out is on Saturday. Whatever. As a go-home show, as a last hard sell here for the pay-per-view, like I said, I thought they did a solid job. I don't know that anybody watching this show, if you were excited for All Out coming into it, I don't know that you're any more or less excited. If you weren't excited for All Out, now that they were able to solidify some of the final spots in some of these matches, you know, maybe you're a little more excited, but I don't think your opinion has really changed all that much. It felt like they hit the high notes. They did what they had to do with some of the key matches and some of the key stories. I thought it was smart to set the show up at the beginning with Hangman and Fletcher and tease that something was going to happen at the very end. It pretty much played out exactly the way that I thought it would at that point. And so now we head into All Out. So not a bad go-home show. You know, didn't knock my socks off or anything like that. But, you know, there were enough strong segments on the show, especially some of the talking segments, especially the Copeland Christian FTR segment, that I thought stood out probably more than most. But some of the in-ring stuff, and again, I give credit to the women, even in the no-holds-barred match. They were beating the hell out of each other in that match. And they have done a really good job. I want to give credit here to Thekla and to Aminata. They have tried to make the most of the television time that they have been given. When they are out there and they are going at each other, it really does feel like these are two women who do not like each other. And it's not, we don't get to see that. It's not, I don't want to say it's like it's not easy. We just don't see enough of that. We don't see enough of that in wrestling right now. We really don't. You know, even in WWE, like with Punk and Drew, right? For a large chunk of that feud, it really did feel like, okay, these two guys, they really don't like each other. They don't care for each other much. When you can kind of give off that sense on TV, it really helps enhance the feud because I can really buy into that, right? Boy, they're beating the hell out of each other. Look at these two. And that's what these two women go out there and do. It's like, hey, we got to go out there and just beat the shit out of each other. And that's what they do every time. So good for them. If ever there was a time to do like a women's blood and guts match, I feel like there's still time, I guess, but we didn't get a men's. We didn't need a men's. But if they're ever going to do a women's, I do feel like there's enough going on kind of in the middle of the card right now with some of these women where you could probably do a women's blood and guts match. Like it would make sense to do one now more so than at any other point in AEW in the last few years. And right now it doesn't look like they're going to do one. I'm just saying there's enough animosity between some of these women where you could absolutely make that work. These two women are part of the equation there. Let's take a look at the Twitter poll. What did you think of September to Remember? Will you remember this September, says the Arizona Zombie. Yeah, I mean, not for anything good. What did you think of Dynamite? 38% thumbs up, 22% thumbs in the middle, 39.7% thumbs down for tonight's show. Take a look at your messages. Another Wednesday night here in the books. Hopefully we won't have another 3-hour show for quite some time. We managed to get rid of 3-hour Raws. The last thing I want are 3-hour Dynamites. Nobody is asking for this. Don't make a habit out of this, please. Hey, look, Solo's favorite sicko is with us with the $2. Happy Wednesday, Solo. Best day of the week. Sickos rejoice. Yes, sickos rejoice. Here's our boy Dried Chicken, $10 super chat. Here's my 2026 prediction. Takeshita will be the AEW World Champion. Sami Zayn will win the Royal Rumble but lose at WrestleMania. And Bayley leaves WWE. Boy, you're really getting in early on these predictions, aren't you? It's only September, brother. It's only September, brother. Also, Crash Out Asuka is by far entertaining. It's one of the stronger stories, honestly, that they're telling right now on WWE TV. Cage and Cope draw first blood on Dax. Something tells me FTR will be attempting murder on Saturday in the ring. You have Jon Moxley and Darby Allin in a coffin match, and you think that's the match where somebody's going to be attempting murder? Also, here's a funny idea. AEW teases the idea of Wheeler, Yuta, and Chris Statlander trying to kiss each other multiple times. Yeah, that sounds awful. That's a terrible idea. Joseph says, Solo, birthday on the 15th, 87 born. Oh, so that was a few days ago. Well, happy belated birthday. Worst use of a legacy finisher, Seth's pedigree or Jay's spear? The spear. Yeah, by far. Because honestly, Triple H in his last few years in the ring had done a good enough job of making that pedigree look like shit anyway. Jey Uso doing the spear, though, is just garbage. Looks like absolute shit. Oz and Glorious with a pair of super chats. Says, late to the stream. I wasn't stoked on All Out, but Dynamite was excellent, so now I can't wait. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Says, late start tonight, but let's hit that like button. Sick of missing Be the Booker. Well, they didn't hear you tonight. We're at 321 likes, so there will be no Be the Booker tonight. There's only so much I can do. Duff's Vids, what's a blonde's favorite fairy tale? Hump me, dump me. Why was the blonde stuck in the shower all day? Because the shampoo bottle said rinse, wash, repeat. Bender McSimpson. One thing I respect about Tony Khan, he's not afraid to have fresh main events instead of the same 4 people and a no contest. Thekla and Aminata was fun. They made the most of the stipulation. You know, we just get it far too often. Duff's Vids with 3 more here. Man, Duff's went crazy. Actually, Sean Nilsson, I want to give a shout out to Sean. Celebrating 53 months of channel membership. He is among the elite here on the channel. And Brandon, again, thank you for those gifted memberships. 5 of them. That's awesome. Duff says, what kind of meat does a vegetarian priest eat? None. That one's good. What do you do when you see a spaceman? You park, man. Spoken like a true New Yorker, except the only thing is you won't be able to find a space. That was me the other night. Thank you, Duffs. Where does an animal that lost its tail go? The retail store. Okay. That might be your best one tonight. Dry Chicken says, if there was an AEW playlist for the AEW sickos, 1, Bodies by Drowning Pool, 2, Out of Your Mind by Lil Jon, and 3, Girls, Girls, Girls by Motley Crue. Any more songs to add in the chat? Well, ask the chat. These are all songs you could play during the next Anarchy in the Arena. You're not going to top what they did, though, this year with Bodies. Like, that was just perfect. Dry Chicken says, we had a big bill in Canada tonight. The one thing that's missing was a Bret Hart receipt. I saw the comments that Bret made about Triple H. It's funny. He still hates his guts. I love it. Arabian Night. 2 buy or sells. Which 2 young stars still have hope to be stars? Hook and Garcia in AEW or Mello in theory in WWE? Also, who has more potential, Fletcher or Dom? They both have great potential. Dom is going to be the bigger star. Dominic is going to be the bigger star. But they both have bright futures. The 4 that you mentioned, Hook is still very young. Of those 4 names, I go Carmelo Hayes. I feel like Theory is cooked. Garcia is only going to go so far. And honestly, Hook too. If I had to sort of pick one of those 4 that I think has the best shot of being something at a high level and pushed at that level, I still think there's hope for Carmelo Hayes. I'm rapidly losing hope, but I still think that there's potential there in a way that I just don't see with the others. Brett just being Brett. Yeah, Brett. Hey, Brett. Brett speaks his mind. You got to respect that. All right, so I'm going to be live with you on Friday for the SmackDown post show. If you missed the Raw post show, if you missed Sound Off episode 929 from this past weekend, if you are a Legends tier member on this channel and you did not see episode 14 of the Sound Off that went up last week from February of 2008, talk about some fun stuff on there. A lot of content there for you. But I'll be live on Friday, and then we got a big weekend coming up because I'll be live on Saturday night for WrestlePalooza, and then covering All Out as part of the regular Sound Off on Sunday. So it's going to be a very busy weekend of wrestling. I hope you guys are ready. You better bring the likes for this weekend. None of this Dynamite shit. You better bring the heat on Friday and Saturday. So be well. Stay safe. Thank you for hanging out with me, and thank you again for all the well wishes for my aunt who is still in the hospital. I will hopefully have positive updates in the future, but right now it is still a very touch and go situation. Not much more to say about that, but still very much on my mind. So anyway, thank you for the kind messages, and I will see you guys back here on Friday night for the SmackDown recap. Until then, take care.